Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and today it is a 2-round mock draft. We're back with the mocks. Try not to do too many in a row so they don't get redundant. This one's going to be a little bit different. Make sure you hit the like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything in the coming up in the future. We're going to start getting into some playoff stuff at some point real soon as the season comes to an end. And I wanted to play around with a little concept here in this mock draft of that is trading away Justin Fields. Now, what is Justin Fields' value? There's a lot of Bears fans that I think are a little delusional about the value of Justin Fields. To me, it's not a first-round pick. He's going into his fourth year. I believe his fourth year. Going into his fourth year. There hasn't really been a whole lot that he can show. His contract's going to be coming up, so you're going to have to, I think, at best, give him the contract that Jordan Love got from Green Bay, where it's a little team friendly, but you're still going to be paying quite a bit. So what would that value look like? Now, to me, I would look at Justin Fields and say he's probably a second-round pick. I think that is a pretty fair assessment. I think when you look at some of the teams, there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks. You'll see a lot of quarterbacks go in the first round of this draft. I think there's a lot of teams that they'll be looking perhaps at the top two quarterbacks, Caleb Williams and Drake May. And if they can't get to that spot to get them, maybe that's when they'll turn to Justin Fields, depending on what the value is, and then maybe use some of their first-round pick on something that has another need as well. And I played around that concept here. Now, I want to say up front, there was a part of me that wanted to have the Bears trade up to number 2 from number 4. I think that there's a real possibility that they will at least attempt to do that, depending on who the number 2 team is in that spot. I think it'll be very difficult, though, to convince a team like Arizona to leave number 2 and not take Marvin Harrison Jr. But I think going Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr., sort of what Houston did in this last draft with C.J. Stroud, Will Anderson back-to-back, and trading up to do that, I think that there's a possibility we could see that happen. But it doesn't happen here. So what I did do was I was looking at A, who would trade for Justin Fields, and 2, once I got to that number 4 pick that the Bears owned, I was like, is this a part where they maybe trade back a bit? Maybe acquire, an extra third-round pick. They did trade their second-round pick for Montez Sweat. So what I actually ended up doing was I killed 2 birds with 1 stone, and this is the trade I came up with. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who currently hold the 7th pick, I got them getting the 4th overall pick, a 5th round pick in 2025, and Justin Fields, while giving the Bears the 7th overall, 39th overall, 73rd overall, and the 2025 third round pick. So their trade up from 4 to 7 is really pick 73 and the 2025 third round pick. They get the 2025 fifth round pick kicked back there as well. And then they trade the 39th overall pick to get Justin Fields. Sure, for everyone yelling at the screen right now, sure, maybe you could throw in a 2025 fourth round pick as well, make it a third and a fourth. Maybe you throw in someone on Tampa Bay throws in like a player or something that they're trying to, dump a contract, get rid of. Maybe it's like, I don't know, no one off the top of my head really comes to mind. But I think that that's really what the trade is looking like here. So rather than write it as 2 separate trades, we're doing Justin Fields for the 39th pick in the draft, and then Tampa's trading up from 7 to 4, giving up 2/3. And that's what we're basically going with here. And so now let's get into the actual draft picks, and we'll see how this all ends up playing out now. So let's first address the trade and the impact of that. Obviously, this was done because Caleb Williams is going first to the Bears. They're going to reset that quarterback clock. And I think at worst case scenario, Caleb Williams will play the same way Justin Fields just played this year. So I think that's a worst case scenario for this team, and they're doing it for a lot cheaper price long term. So I got them. Tampa's coming up. They get Justin Fields, and they're going to take Olu Fashanu, tackle. He'll play opposite Tristan Wirfs now going forward. I think that's a really good move for Tampa Bay. They keep some of the receivers. I don't think they'll lose any of those guys. They're just out a second and third round pick now, but hey, franchise quarterback perhaps. And a tackle that is got the upside that is insane to have probably one of the best young tackle combinations in the league in the next couple of years. And I have the Bears going Malik Neighbors, wide receiver, LSU. I like him pairing up with DJ Moore. Darnell Mooney, his contract's up. But you want to give Caleb Williams a shot right out the gate. So you give him a top-level young wide receiver to go along with a wide receiver one, a true wide receiver one in the league, and DJ Moore. Speaking of wide receiver ones, Marvin Harrison Jr. goes to Arizona. That's going to be a really hard spot for teams to trade up into to get Marvin Harrison. That's why my New York Giants, you saw the shirt, you saw the hat, they stay at 6. They get Kool-Aid McKinstry instead with Adoree Jackson. Not really know what his future is. They only eat $2 million in dead money if they cut him. So I do think that they will do a best player on the board type of a deal. And I think Kool-Aid McKinstry could easily fall into that role just because they also have Darren Waller already. So that's why the Jets, rather than going tackle, I want them to pick up Brock Bowers, give Aaron Rodgers somebody right out the gate. Again, another weapon for him to come out. Bowers is a good blocker as well. So I think he can help out in all facets of the game. And I think that really rounds out the weapons group there for them with great running backs, now a great number 1 tight end. And then, Garrett Wilson, the wide receiver, along with, Mixon, Allen Lazard, and all those guys for Aaron Rodgers. Joe Alt goes to Washington at 5. I think that Washington's offensive line is horrific. Who really knows what that staff is going to look like? I don't know that Sam Howell has played bad and has played so bad that they're going to move on from him necessarily. Especially in this situation, I think they can hold Pat, take the best offensive lineman on the board, and then look at a defensive lineman in the second round, or get it, because I think trading Sweat and Chase Young shows that they're not really going to invest in the free agency that is going to be quite strong for the edge group coming out, at least projecting so far. So if this staff is completely ripped apart, I look at Joe Alt to be the guy here, just to start with getting a young blue chip guy at an important position. And speaking of that, the New England Patriots, they're number 3, saving them for last. Drake May, the quarterback, North Carolina. They're in a perfect spot here where teams will be tempted, I think, to try and trade ahead of them. But I think if they do in that situation, the Patriots could just take Marvin Harrison Jr. And I don't think anyone would be that upset. And they can look into maybe in the second round getting one of those, that second tier quarterback group. But I think a lot of quarterbacks are going to go in this first round, and you're about to see a run of them coming up very shortly. But that's the top 8 right there. So going to the next group, and you'll see there at number 11, there's the next quarterback. It's Bo Nix, quarterback out of Oregon. Now, what is this coaching staff with the Raiders going to look like? Will they try to make another big splash and get, Jim Harbaugh? Because if this is Jim Harbaugh, this won't be Bo Nix, it'll be J.J. McCarthy. He'll grab J.J. McCarthy from Michigan and bring him over. I think that's a possibility no matter what team he ends up coaching, unless he's coaching a team that already might have a quarterback sort of on board. Or if he's picking for a team like Washington, who's at number 5. I don't know if taking J.J. McCarthy that high will be something he'll be able to sell to the front office. But I do like Bo Nix sort of creeping his way up there, especially you get Antonio Pierce, who might be brought back depending on how well they finish. I could really see that happening. So I like this possibility here. Bo Nix being quarterback 3 and finding his way into the top 15. Surrounding him are edge rushers, Dallas Turner to the Titans and Jared Verse going to the New Orleans Saints. Both rounding off their defensive front fours there. And I have the Titans going with Dallas Turner. only because right before that, Johnny Newton going to the Chargers, the interior defensive lineman, the best one in the class, going to the Chargers there at number 9, stealing them right from underneath the nose of the Tennessee Titans. Green Bay, really tough team to pick for. They almost never do the right thing. But for them, what is the right thing here at number 13? I got them taking Nate Wiggins, the cornerback out of Clemson. Help out that secondary. You got Minnesota, which you anticipate is going to continue to pick up the pace there with Jordan Addison, and then you get a healthy Justin Jefferson. Detroit, obviously, going to have that high-powered offense for a while now. Quite an affordable group they have there. And then, of course, the Bears, which DJ Moore, they just added Malik Neighbors. They add Caleb Williams here. You need to be prepared to stop that pass. You need to have some depth back there. So I think Nate Wiggins going here. I think that there won't necessarily be one and done when it comes to picking in the secondary on these first 2 days of the draft. Rams, the Atu Latu edge out of UCLA. Put him opposite Byron Young, who surprisingly is having a pretty good year, pretty good start. I think you take the best defensive lineman, best lineman on the board. And I think Liatu Latu with that 3-4 outside linebacker type of ability, I think he fits in really well with the Rams, who are, sort of stuck in this holding pattern, it seems, right now. Then we get a run on receivers here for two teams that have really great quarterbacks that are really underachieving. Of course, Cincinnati might be picking a lot higher than this with Joe Burrow out for the rest of the season. But I think Keon Coleman comes in, and now even if you keep T. Higgins, you get rid of Tyler Boyd, or you lose both of them, I think it makes sense either way to take a top weapon and take some attention off of Jamar Chase. Then you got Rome Odunze from Washington going to Buffalo. Again, Gabe Davis is a impending free agent. Even if you do bring him back, you still need some wide receiver help here. And I think investing in the first round in a wide receiver, you did a good tight end last year with Dalton Kincaid. Keep adding weapons to this group. Josh Allen, he's that gunslinger. He's going to whip that ball down the field. He's going to create a lot of mistakes, but he's going to create a lot of plays. So you want to have as many playmakers on the field as possible, spread that ball around, give him more options, and put him in positions where maybe he feels less inclined to be so forceful with the football and putting ball security in danger. So here's the run on quarterbacks here. 6 quarterbacks going in the first round for me. Jaden Daniels from LSU. He's the highest graded quarterback in the NCAA right now. I'm not so sure that his play in this one season is going to put him above a lot of the top quarterbacks. But again, depending on where Jim Harbaugh falls, it could be J.J. McCarthy, who I have going to Minnesota there. I think that's an easy spot for them to take him, like Kirk Cousins walk, and reset the quarterback position there, spend money elsewhere, filling out this roster. Again, lots of really good edge talent potentially coming out. And then Michael Penix Jr. to Seattle. Geno Smith was signed to really just a 2-year deal. He hasn't played bad, I wouldn't say, this year, but he certainly is not the guy that he was. I don't want to call him a 1-year wonder, but I will call him a 1-year wonder. I think for the long term, you get a guy like Michael Penix on this team. Again, you reset the cap here, kind of like Minnesota would be doing with J.J. McCarthy over Kirk Cousins. Do you take perhaps a step back short term to take multiple steps forward long term? I think that's a good strategy. You see some 2 corners out there. Cooper DeJean, who's like a corner / safety. I like him going to the Indianapolis Colts. He can play safety and corner, so I think that's a good spot for him to land in. The Colts just need secondary help. And I like Kalen King going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pair him up with Joey Porter. They don't really have a whole lot going on in the secondary outside of Joey Porter at the cornerback position. And I think, again, long term, this is a great spot to be in for. I think that Mike Tomlin would love to add more defensive help in there as well. Then you look at Emeka Egbuka there. I got going to the Denver Broncos wide receiver. The ever-improving Denver offense sort of now playing like the team that I projected them to be. A team that can win some tough games, that can be competitive against everybody, steal a couple wins here and there from maybe teams that they shouldn't. But there's also the question of what's going on at the wide receiver position. Is Jerry Jeudy going to be sticking around? Is Cortland Sutton going to be sticking around? Tim Patrick has now torn 2 ACLs, or an ACL and an Achilles or something. They drafted Marvin Mims in the 3rd round last year. I think if you get Emeka Egbuka in there, it creates less question marks surrounding such an important position group. And it gives another toy for Sean Payton to play around with. I think it helps Russell Wilson again as well, because Emeka Egbuka is a great route runner. So, does it create redundancy with Jerry Jeudy? Perhaps, sure, yeah, but I think a lot of teams will be interested in acquiring Jerry Jeudy. Maybe you don't get a 1st or 2nd round pick for him, but I think a 3rd round pick for Jerry Jeudy is a reasonable thing, and Denver can sort of rebuild their draft capital in that way while also getting really good players with what they have already. Houston, Leonard Taylor, interior defensive lineman. He's sort of like the last of the 1st round interior defensive linemen that are here. And I like adding him. DeMeco Ryans. So defensive head coaches are always sort of going to build in this way. He's got his franchise quarterback. They got some really good offensive weapons out there. Their offense is really overachieving for the most part. And I think they're only going to get better together. The Tank Dell's looking like a giant steal. So I'm not sure that offense really needs a whole lot of help. I think the offense really just needs development time, time to grow, time to knock off some of that young player rookie rust. They got a franchise left tackle. Maybe they can add an offensive lineman in free agency. Maybe they can add a veteran wide receiver in free agency to sort of round it off with Nico Collins and Tank Dell, because they do have John Mechie, of course, as well. But I like the idea of them going Will Anderson Jr. last year. They picked up Derek Barnett, I believe. I believe they were the team that scooped up Derek Barnett. Maybe they bring him back, and they got a 1-2 punch there at the edge. Now they got to work on the interior, and I think Leonard Taylor would be a great start for that. Take a 1st round pick, add it to the defensive line, and continue to build that defense the way that DeMeco Ryans wants it. And of course, he's bringing over that San Francisco 49ers defensive strategy that started with Robert Saleh, and you see they like to build that defensive line, get some depth on the defensive line, get a good, healthy rotation of players, high-quality players, so that you're constantly going to be able to be in the quarterback's face, and they never really will know what it is that you're going to be running, because you got such versatility on the front four as well, and I think Leonard Taylor will bring that. I think these last picks here are an example of, in every draft, good players fall. And J.C. Latham, to me, was that guy. He falls to 25. Picked up by the Miami Dolphins. I think he slides in, plays right tackle right away. Another offensive lineman there, Talisi Fuaga, to the Dallas Cowboys. I put offensive lineman. He's playing interior, playing tackle. What he'll translate to in the NFL is still up in the air, but I think whatever the best 1-2 punch of him and Tyler Smith is on the left side of that line will be what he ends up playing. If the better combination is Fuaga at left tackle, that'll be the case. If he's better than him to be at left guard, that'll be the case. And then Armarius Mims, just because the interior guys were kind of already off the board, I didn't want to reach for anyone. Adding Armarius Mims as an offensive tackle, again, kind of falls a bit. Wouldn't be shocked if he went higher than this, depending on how his workouts go. And then there's a lot of guys in the secondary going here. That last little bit of first-round guys in the secondary. Start with Denzel Burke, cornerback, Ohio State, going to Detroit. Him and Brian Branch, and I think there's a good group potentially brewing there in Detroit. That defense does need to improve and continue to improve, so I think adding pieces there is imperative. Tyler Nubin with the tackles kind of off the board at this point. I'm going Tyler Nubin. Pair him up with Fuanga. Why am I forgetting his name? Talisi. Whatever. Why am I getting his name confused? You guys know who I'm talking about. He's an amazing player, and I'm just getting tongue-tied. Pair them up together in the secondary. 49ers could use secondary help. I think every team could use secondary help, especially when you're now looking at Arizona potentially improving their passing game with Marvin Harrison, a healthy Rams passing game, a healthy Seattle passing game that's continuing to develop as well, and helping out that front four. That really does contribute greatly to this defense. Kamari Lassiter sneaking into the first round here for Baltimore at corner, And then Cameron Kitchens, the safety out of Miami, going to the Eagles. That's really the only weak spot it's really turned out to be a weak spot of their defense, is that secondary. They are much older. They're a mix of like being maybe a little too old and a little too inexperienced somehow. But I think adding Cameron Kitchens in there, he's a versatile safety. And then Braylon Trice, you see him there going to Jacksonville. Now, I think that this was a possibility last year, even with Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker. And I still think it's a possibility even if they bring Josh Allen back. Because you can kick Trayvon Walker, who's like 280 something pounds, you can kick him in to be more of like a 3-4 defensive end, especially on passing downs. And then Braylon Trice and Josh Allen, and you can have all three of them on the field at the same time. And I think there's a lot of mixing and matching you can do. And I think it's important to have that type of ability to be a really and truly effective defense in the NFL these days. Here are the Carolina Panthers picking for the first time Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver, LSU. He seems to be rising up the board in the draft community and within NFL beat writer rooms. Carolina's in a lot of trouble, man. I did give the Carolina Panther fans a lot of crap. I went back into my deep dive video where they were talking about how great that coaching staff was, how great the offensive line was, and I took a lot of pleasure in being like, I told you so. But to their credit, they took it like men. So what's this going to look like? Is this going to be Ben Johnson from Detroit? Is he now all of a sudden going to want this job when he didn't want it last year? Is this going to be Jim Harbaugh making a huge amount of money to come here? And then what does that look like? I think they just got to help Bryce Young in any way, shape, or form. And I'm looking at their offensive line. Ike Ekwonu, you're going to hope he continues to develop. Taylor Moton is kind of just like that, a solid middle of the pack right tackle. Is he on his last bit? And then do you to make this a tackle? I think getting a wide receiver is the most important thing for this team above anything else. Getting weapons, because they're really thin. Adam Thielen, who at his last bit in Minnesota looked like he was just at the end of his career, and they're out of pure necessity, he's like a rock star now, a complete megastar in Carolina. Just having a great season, but how long can you sustain that? So I'm going with the wide receiver there. And then you see two other wide receivers there. I got the Giants going with Adonai Mitchell, the wide receiver out of Texas. His teammate Xavier Worthy going to the Chicago Bears. Yes, I have Chicago doubling up at wide receiver to complete this wide receiver room for them. And they signed Cole Kmet to a contract extension as well. So now I think that they're creating an environment for Caleb Williams to have success right out the gate, regardless of who their head coach is. Could be Jim Harbaugh. Who knows? Could be Ben Johnson. Who knows? And then the Giants take Adonai Mitchell, 6'4". He's a different type of wide receiver than what they have on the roster. The hope is that you got Mitchell, Hyatt, and then a Wan'Dale Robinson coming out of the slot with an Isaiah Hodgins, who they might bring back next year as well, as sort of like the fourth wide receiver who can play anywhere. That's the hope. Washington gets 2 picks in a row here. One of them, of course, from the Chicago Bears in the Montez Sweat trade, which they used to take JT Tuimoloau, the edge out of Ohio State. Pair him up with KJ Henry, and you've got 2 starting edge guys now on your roster for a lot cheaper than what Sweat and Chase Young were, and you can spend that money elsewhere. Also, I'm taking Barrett Carter, the linebacker out of Clemson, first linebacker off the board there. 2 guys in the secondary going. Terry and Arnold, cornerback out of Alabama, going to the Arizona Cardinals. They just need a lot of help everywhere. And building a good secondary for Jonathan Gannon going forward to compete with some of these offenses is essential. And then Kalen Bullock, safety USC, going to Green Bay. They double up at the defensive back position, this time getting a safety. Same logic as the Nate Wiggins pick previously. This is the pick they got in the Aaron Rodgers trade. And Graham Barton going to the Patriots. Took a quarterback, now take an offensive tackle. You need him. what's going to happen with Michael Onwenu, who's a free agent coming up. Are they going to re-sign him? They don't like paying anyone, especially if Belichick's still there, so who knows what that's going to look like. So we get a bit of a run here on offensive tackles a little bit. Patrick Paul going to the Tennessee Titans. They missed out on a tackle with their first pick. Take one here in Patrick Paul. Green Bay, their second round pick. Kingsley Suamataia, offensive tackle, BYU. Zach Tom, pretty good right tackle. Rasheed Walker sort of really getting it together, the former Penn State tackle at left tackle. But they're in a situation where I feel like you want to get the best 5 on the field. And with John Runyon's contract coming up at guard, maybe Zach Tom plays guard. Maybe Walker plays guard. Maybe Suamataia plays guard. Who knows? And then Jordan Morgan, tackle of Arizona, going to the Rams. So the same argument there. Take the best lineman on the board for them. Then we get some interior defensive linemen going. Tavondre Sweat and Chris Jenkins going back-to-back. Sort of using the same strategy for both these teams I used for the Bengals and the Bills. Because it's sort of the same arguments that can be made for both of them. Josh Newton, cornerback, going to the Chargers there. You see it at the top. Oregon quarterback Bo Nix brings along his number one receiver, Troy Franklin, to the Raiders. I think what's happening with that receiver? Hunter Renfrow probably won't be around. So hopefully you can keep Devontae Adams, keep him happy. The new head coach can, rally that, can corral that issue. You got Jacoby Myers, who they signed last year, and then Troy Franklin. You got a good three wide receivers there for Bo Nix right out the gate. And then my feel-good pick. I like making this pick. It makes a lot of sense. On top of being a feel-good pick, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. going to the Philadelphia Eagles. This is the pick that they got from the Saints. Speaking of the New Orleans Saints, Kalen Carson, quarterback, Wake Forest. This is a need for them. Get guys helping in the secondary. Quinion Mitchell, same thing for Minnesota. They need to create an identity in that secondary. That just doesn't seem to have a top flight guy on it. Back-to-back tackles here. Jack Sawyer, edge to the Colts. Chris Braswell, edge Alabama to the Giants. It's two teams that could use this type of help on defense, help out with the secondary. Ironically, both teams went defensive back at some point in this draft in the first round as well. That's the pick the Giants got from Seattle in the Leonard Williams trade. Cedric Gray, the Browns' first pick is linebacker Cedric Gray out of North Carolina. They're a tough team to pick for. They got a lot of complete stuff there, but linebackers and defensive tackle perhaps are probably the two spots they should maybe look at. Then you look at Xavier Legette, wide receiver, South Carolina, going to the Atlanta Falcons. Again, you got a new quarterback, get a new wide receiver to go along with them. And the Houston Texans, find a way to help out CJ Stroud. You got Leonard Taylor in the first round working the defense, but you still want to help out CJ Stroud, even though you seem to have a relatively complete offense that just needs time to develop. Maybe get him a tight end, Jatavion Sanders. You have what's his face, the tight end, on a 1-year deal right now. Came from the Cowboys. Why am I so bad with names today? I'm usually so much better. But yeah, that guy. Oh my God, it's gonna bother me now. It's gonna bother. Why does it start with an S? Whatever. Get a weapon. And tight end's a good spot to get it. They got some young wide receivers out there. Why not get another tight end? Brevin Jordan's had sneaky good games, but I think his contract's coming up soon anyway. I think he's going into year 3 of his 4-year deal. So, and he hasn't really broken out as anything yet. Just a couple sneaky games in there. And then Pittsburgh, last year they went tackle, corner. This year they're going corner, tackle. Tyler Guyton, tackle, Oklahoma. Again, adding to the offensive line. Throw assets at that position group until you get the 5 that you're really super satisfied with. And I think Guyton can play guard if you need him to, but long term, if you got Broderick Jones and Tyler Guyton as your tackles, I think that could be a good 1-2 punch. So we're looking at now 2 interior defensive linemen, Tyler Davis going to the Miami Dolphins, and then Mason Smith going to the Chiefs. You're going to see an interior defensive lineman end up in Kansas City in this draft in the first 2 rounds. It's just a matter of who it's going to be. Mason Smith looked like a first-round talent, sort of dropped off a little bit. Another defensive player here, Tommy Eichenberg, going to the Dallas Cowboys. With Van Der Esch's career probably looking like it's over now after a couple years of it sort of flirting with that idea. That looks like how that's going to go down. So they're going to need a linebacker, even if they do, as of right now, no one signed Darius Leonard. So even if they do get Darius Leonard, still adding another linebacker would help round off that defense for them. TJ Tampa, cornerback, going to Jacksonville. Again, taking players at valuable positions, I'll say. And speaking of that, Baltimore goes Travion Henderson, the first running back off the board. Took 63 picks for it to happen. Ohio State running back J.K. Dobbins, again, torn Achilles. Just adding a weapon that complements the offense. And this is one of those few offenses where getting a running back complements the offense and makes them better. Usually that's not the case. It's usually the case that it's a wide receiver, which is why you see the Detroit Lions going Johnny Wilson, wide receiver, Florida State. And then Malik Washington, wide receiver, Virginia. Some may be thinking that's a bit of a reach, but Malik Washington right now, I believe, is the number 2 graded wide receiver in all of college football right now, behind Malik Neighbors. So there's something there, and I think that the Eagles could turn him into something, especially because he's coming in at the 64th pick with no pressure of being a number 1 or even a number 2 wide receiver, and with really no pressure to even being the number 3 receiving target. So he can come in, he'll get a lot of favorable matchups early in his career, early and often in his career, so he could be somebody that can come in and make a tremendous impact on a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, who have the depth to put him in positions to succeed early. And then Troy Fautanu, because the 49ers love guys with complicated names. Tackle Washington, he's another guy, sort of like how Kansas City, they have to sort of get an interior defensive lineman in the first 2 picks that they have. I think the 49ers, barring some free agency move, they need to get an offensive lineman, preferably an offensive tackle, to play on the right side in the first 2 rounds. So that's why I went out and got him here for them. And there it is, 2 rounds. What do you guys think? Leave in the comment section below. Leave all your hate mail, Bears fans, in the comment section below. But just remember, go to my Carolina Panthers video and ask those Panther fans if you should get ahead of yourself in talking badly about me and what I think about certain players of certain teams. See you guys next time.